Evening hours at IKIMfm. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon to the dear listeners of IKIMfm. Welcome to another episode of Great Works of the Muslim World. I'm your host Batrisha, and as usual I have with me in the studio today someone who is not unknown to the show itself is Dr. Muhammad Husni Muhammad Amin, fellow at IKIM Center for Science and Environment Studies, KIAS. Assalamualaikum Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam, Batrisha.
Alhamdulillah. And how are you, doctor?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah. Just
Alhamdulillah.
working on things, okay? But it's yeah, it's been a good week.
Such a yes, doctor. It's such a long time since the last time I talked to you. To have you as my guest. In this show.
I'm pleased to be back as a guest on my own show.
Alhamdulillah, doctor.
Right.
And doctor, for the past few episodes, I've been behind the scene, listening to your sharing about, for example, for last week, you talk about the anecdotes in Imam Al Ghazali's Nasihat Al Muluk, and even
Yes.
for the past three episodes, you talk about the Abu Zaid Al Baki's view on the psychology of the human soul. And for today, for this week, you are going to talk about al-Mawardi, and it brings to today's topic al-Ahkam al-Sultaniyyah, Imam al-Mawardi's ordinances of the government. And of course, it's very interesting about the figure that you're about to talk today, because al-Mawardi has been considered as one of the most renowned thinkers in the political science of the medieval of Islamic history. I'm sure you have a lot to talk about him, doctor. So as a first question of this interview, can you share with us, doctor, who is Imam al-Mawardi? Who is the person who is the author of the book Al-Ahkam al-Sultaniyyah, and what is his background?
Right. Thank you, Batrisha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Right. It is you said it rightly so that Imam al-Mawardi was a foremost thinker in what is known today as political science. Back then it was known as the ilmu tadbir or tadbir al-muluk, or the governance of a state or a power, which we now equate as political science. And one of Islam's most renowned scholars and thinkers, responsible for exerting tremendous influence on the milieu of the 10th century AD, therefore shaped that particular milieu, was Imam Abul Hasan Ali ibn Muhammad ibn Habib al-Mawardi, or shortened as Imam al-Mawardi. And he was born in Basra in Iraq, which is about 4 hours drive to Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, which was then the epicenter of Islamic authority. The Caliph, the Abbasid caliphs, were based there. But he was born during the height of Buwahid power. And to give a little bit of context, Batrisha, it was 30 years before he was born, a Shi'i Iranian warlord by the name of Ali ibn Buwayh, he emerged from his conquest of Fars, just in Farsi, which now today is known as Iran. Therefore, he emerged and he established his dynasty, and he was in the midst of expanding his territories. And then until Baghdad fell to his control and in 945. So, but unfortunately for the Buwayhids, they were unable to legitimize the rule without the caliph. This is unlike what happened in Egypt, which fell under the control of the Fatimids. The Fatimids, they claim a descendant line to Sadatina Fatima, who was the wife of Sayyidina Ali, who was the cousin and therefore son-in-law to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. So so different with the Fatimids, the Buwayhids, they cannot legitimize because they were only Shiites, they were only supporters of the claimants uh, who were themselves descendants to the line of Sayyidina Ali.
Mhm.
So therefore, they couldn't rule without a caliph. Therefore, they decided to retain the Abbasid institution, meaning they held the military leadership while letting the Abbasid caliphs, let them remain as caliph. So,
Mhm.
but many of the subsequent caliphs were acting as no more than political hostages and figureheads. But as 30 years gone by, that is the milieu which Imam Mawardi was born. He grew up and then he became a Shafi'i scholar, and a famous one. And during his lifetime, he authored many major works in jurisprudence, in fiqh, in principles of jurisprudence, in usul fiqh, and also in Quranic exegesis, what we know as tafsir al-Quran. But
Mhm.
his most known work was the celebrated work which we are going to discuss today, the ordinances of the government, al-Ahkam al-Sultaniyyah wal-Wilayat al-Diniyah, or literally we can translate that as the rules of royal authority and jurisdiction of religious authority. So he explained this foreshadows what the later Shafi'i scholars such as Imam al-Juwayni and Imam Ghazali talking about the symbiotic relationship, or shall we say, twins of power, the temporal, secular political power, and the divinely ordained religious authority. So, but this book covers topics as important, talking about the appointments of the caliphal system of government, conduct of war, and one other thing in addition to this is the stipulations regarding hisbah, or what we back then it was known as more as market supervision.
Mhm.
But today we can say that it is the foundation for the regulatory bodies which oversee and regulate the markets.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about the flea markets, but the market which commerce happen, economic activity happens. These are the regulatory bodies. Right here, we have like the various ministries, and then we have agencies, and we have bodies like the Securities Commission, which monitors and regulates the flow of money. So
Mhm.
Al-Mawardi, uh, because he was he became renowned during the time when the Seljuk was on the rise. They were the offshoot of the Ghozia, Turkic tribe that roamed the Anatolia. They had risen into power, and they were supporters of the Abbasid caliphs. And in the beginning of the 11th century, uh, one of them, Tughril Bek, he rose to power, and he assisted the Abbasid caliphs in rooting out the Buwahid from Baghdad. So and they established themselves as a Sunni, but also the supporters and the military leadership of the Abbasid Caliphate structure. So al-Mawardi, he became a head of judiciary, al-Qadi al-Qudah, during the reign of Abbasid Caliph al-Qa'im. And al-Qa'im, he gave al-Mawardi the recognition and acknowledgement for his eloquence and also skills in negotiation, especially with the Buwayhid military leaders before Tughril assault upon Baghdad. And so he entrusted him to head diplomatic missions at least 4 times in the year uh, 1031, 1042, and in 1043. So so finally in 1055, under the commission of Caliph al-Qa'im, Tughril led his forces into Baghdad and drove out the Buwayhids from the city. And al-Qa'im, he was restored as the head of the Abbasid Caliphate and legitimate source of religious authority for the Muslims. But the Turkoman, the Seljuk, they remain as heads of the military leadership. So that's a little bit of the background of Imam Mawardi, the situation he grew up, and how he became renowned.
And that's very interesting of that, because usually, as from our experience when we're listening to it, usually the
Yeah.
surroundings and during the time they were born up is somehow influence their writing. And perhaps for the next question, could you share with us what is this book all about? Maybe the situation is grown up, it has influence on his book, and what is the structure of the presentation?
Right. So he was born during the time when uh, this is the impact of the Abbasid revolution in the long run. And also if we can see that the Abbasid Caliphate had its good run in the 9th century. That was the period of the so-called golden age of Islamic science. But as 200 years have passed, uh, and the influx of Persians, Mawalis coming into the fold of Islam. Islam has grown into Iran, into Khorasan, into the four directions, and there were now more Muslims than previously Arab Muslim um, followers. So we can imagine that in order to control the empire during the time of Caliph al-Muqtasim, he recruited many of these Turkoman Persians into the military in order to safeguard the borders. So naturally, the Abbasid Caliph, they began to surround themselves. They let themselves to be surrounded by more non-Arabs than they are Arabs. So, which explains the situation, the circumstances that they begin to lose power first to the Buwayhids, and now you got the Turkmens controlling the military. So during that time, Al-Ahkam al-Sultaniyyah was written as a comprehensive account on the workings of Islamic governance. This is the problem that Imam Wardi was aware of. So in this book, also he explains, it covers all various aspects of the religion of Islam, which are the concern the responsibility and the duty of the caliph, his commanders, viziers, and deputies. Also, so the structure, which brings us to the structure of the book. So it talks about the appointments of sovereigns, because as I said before, now by that time, by his time, there were more non Arabs than there are Arabs in Islam. So
Mhm.
the caliphs have themselves surrounded by these non Arabs, and al-Mawardi outlined that the Imam, this is based on the creedal matter on Aqidah, that the Imam or the Caliph must be of Quraysh stock. They must be Arabs. They must be Quraysh. For that, the Caliph has been operating on that basis. The Khulafa al-Rashidin, the Umayyads, and the Abbasids. Only the time of Abbasids, the leadership is now to Quraysh, but in the line of Al-Abbas, who was the uncle to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So at least that's what they claim. So political power has not yet slipped away from the Quraysh at that time, and so Imam Mawardi's book outlines the preconditions of becoming imam, less that leadership will fall to a non-Quraysh or non-Arab. So and then it talks about the appointment of judges and the military commanders, the Amir or the Umara. And during that time, these are almost always governors of provinces and also outlying outposts. And then it talks about the rights and responsibilities of these sovereigns, the judges, and the military commanders. And these include the duties of fighting apostates, especially when they rebel. And then talking about rebellion, it talks about how to deal and the laws to deal with insurgents and brigands. And these people, they are not because by the coming of Islam, as Ibn Khaldun says, um, war as I mean the three kinds of war. Now only one type of law is allowed in Islam, that is jihad, and also in the defense of the religion and the Muslim territories. So insurgents and brigands, uh, only when they are uh, causing harm, um, they are attacking Muslim territories. They should be dealt with. But there are also what this book is all about. Certain sections of it talking about how to deal with them. What are the rights that can be given to the insurgents? To what extent that the government military can take action upon rebels, insurgents, and brigands? And
Mhm.
mind you, that is the time when there were no clear borders as we have today. What we have today are nation states. They are clearly defined borders and drawn by countries and then affirmed by cartographers, and then uh, ratified by uh, bodies such as the United Nations. And then the book talks about this because during that time, that was the time of the city states, a ruler's influence, uh, where the extends only his influence extends only to a certain range, and then where his influence or power ends, that's when the influence and power of another ruler starts. So it's always a contest, and there's always a worry about uh, brigand attack on the highways. Uh, we've heard about the life story of Imam Ghazali when he was traveling in a caravan in a and then that caravan was attacked by brigands, and that's how he lost his books, and
Mhm.
that motivated him to memorize many of the knowledge which he has written down. So that's the case there. So there are always caravans are always traveling with armed escorts, and if they are unarmed, they are open to attack by highway brigands. And the government military is always needed to make sure that the highways are safe for travelers. And then the book discusses about the division of the spoils of war, and then boundaries between countries. So, in a sense, it affirms and it discusses also what we have discussed before on ASEAR as what we know today as international law. This is one of the foundation of the modern day international law, alongside uh, ASEAR by Imam Al-Shaybaini and Imam Sarakhsi. And then it talks about the reclamation of land and supplying water for, in the opinion of Imam Mawardi, lands which have no owners. So whoever works on that land, cultivates it, and then digging water and supplies it to other. Therefore, he has more rights to it. Back to the law which has evolved today, where we have fixed borders, we have drawn lines of borders. Therefore, the territories naturally belong to the sovereigns, and it is up to him to dispense, with the land ministries and the land officers to dispense or to sell land properties to people. They are up for grabs in the market. And then and then the book talk about land enclosure, about zakat, the tithe, which is given out in support of in support of the eight asnaf, the receivers of the zakat. And then talk about kharaj and jizya, and these are taxes levied upon non-Muslim citizens in lieu of zakat. And then the last part of it talks about crimes and punishment, what to do with people who are guilty of fornication, of theft, of drinking intoxicants, and also adultery. And there is also a section talking about Hizbah, the regulatory or market supervision. So to sum it up, the significant sections of the book discuss about disappointments, appointment of leaders, ministers, provincial governors, military elites who lead in wars, which we call as Imarah al-Jihad. These are military commanders, uh, and also military commanders who lead campaigns against apostates, rebels, marauders, and highwaymen. So these, so Imam Mawardi, he outlines them as public duties incumbent upon the ruler, uh, that is to protect the territories of Islam, and basically to protect Muslims, uh,
Mhm.
and which encompasses also his responsibility to defend sanctuaries where people can learn a livelihood and embark on journeys safe from any threat upon their persons and properties. Because mm, and we'll see this restatement in mainstream Muslim creedal belief, as we can find in Imam Abu Hafs Najmuddin an-Nasafi, who is known for his Aqaid Nasafi, a book detailing, summing up, summarizing the creedal points that a Muslim should believe in. One of them is the duty to that the Muslims must have a ruler, and it is the duty of the ruler to ensure that Islam is upheld through its implementation of laws and the administration of ordinances. And this is where military power comes into the picture, because without order, without peace and security, there is no way that you can pray safely. You can earn a livelihood enough for you to give up zakat. I mean, who's going to protect all the amils, the collectors of zakat, if the situation is in chaos or in anarchy?
Mm.
And you cannot travel to sanctuaries, you cannot travel to do trade and commerce, or even go to Umrah or Hajj if the highways are not secured from robbers, from highwaymen, and also marauders. So all of these fall under the responsibility of the ruler. So this can only happen when the political state is peaceful and out of harm's way. So rulers, they are duty bound to maintain fortifications and defenses, to equip the armies, and to suppress any illegitimate use of force. So this include banditry. So aside from this, in order to uh, provide a stable government with its military institution. So Mawardi explained the role of the governmental Diwan, as first instituted by Khalifah Umar ibn Khattab, which is the chancery where uh, records of government functions and properties and armies or personnel in charge of them, all of these are kept in. So it later became an, as Mawardi explained, it became an institution that managed and apportioned large amounts of money at any given time, and as well as those who are placed in charge of holding those considerable state resources, and also what are their responsibilities. So that's what we can explain in this short amount of time about the book.
And that's very interesting because from what I understood from your explanation, seems like
Yeah.
the recurring theme that we can see is about the ruler's authority and also its balance to the rule of law. And I think it's very interesting if we relate it to the current times, especially in the political situation in Malaysia, because this book seems like it addressed the relationship between the ruler and also the one that being governed, which is its citizens. So perhaps, Doctor, could you elaborate on its relevance to the situation?
Yeah. So this book contains many insight into key issues in Islamic law, therefore fundamental in to this implementation. People like Imam Shaybani, Sarakhsi, and Imam Mawardi, they laid the foundation for today modern state, nation state, and constitutional laws. This is an evolution from the Sahifa Madinah, the first written constitution in the world regarding a state. So, as in the beginning, you rightly so said that Imam Mawardi was a thinker in political science. So Al-Ahkam al-Sultaniyyah, it discusses the principles of political science, and it has special reference to ministers, relationship between populace and the administration, and also calculations to strengthen government and secure a victory in conflict. So, so, um, different compared to Western political thought. The government, the government is not an evil, a necessary evil. It is necessary, but it is necessary to have a government to keep things in order. and so they should be reminded of that.
Mhm.
A Mawardi who is an author or an advocator of the doctrine of necessity in political science, and he was in favor of a strong government. And during that time, he also spoke out against unlimited powers given to governors, because he said that they could be responsible for creating disorder and chaos. And because uh, even today we can see that politicians, whenever they are not held in check, they will do as they like, and they influence in the decisions, uh, being the uh, what do you call it, the legislative assembly. So they are in charge of drawing up laws to be followed
Yes.
by the country. So because its relevance in with us in Malaysia, because our long history since the time of the Malay world, and then the Malaya, and then the establishment of Malaysia, and with the council of the Malay rulers and the sultans, uh, they are taking turns. We recently, Malaysia recently installed its new Agong after Sultan Abdullah. Now we have a new Agong. So it explains that we have really, even in the legal system, we have a dual system which is which is based on the common law, the English common law, and then based on every state, they have what they call as Undang-Undang Tubuh Negeri, which is
Mm.
based on the Hukum Kanun of Malacca, which is in turn based on the Sharia laws. So our position here in Malaysia is unique, and at the foundation of these laws, this ahkam, hukum kanun, is ahkam sultaniyah, which is the author was Imam Mawardi. So and we might wonder also in what respect this foundation serve today, because Imam Mawardi, he brought forth clear principles for elections of caliphs, rulers, and standards of the voters, among which the most important achievement of a degree of intellectual capacity and also morality of the character, because this is based on the hadith of the Prophet, kama takunu yuwalla alaikum, as you are, so shall your leader be. So what we have today is democratic elections, where the people vote in for leaders, and they in turn vote among themselves who would be their leader, who will work closely with the monarch or the sovereign, in this case the sultan or the agong. So they bring the people's aspirations to the ruler, so that the ruler can rule more effectively the country. So I believe
Mhm.
this is as compared to the time in the ancient time, where uh, for example in ancient Rome, where only the elites can vote among themselves to appoint a consul, who in turn become the emperor of Rome, and he has absolute authority. He's only checked by the Senate, but the common people have often no say in it. Uh, Only when they are nobles, or only when they are elected as senators, they can influence the government. And
Mhm.
also the time when in the medieval time, you talk about the divine right of kings. This happened with the medieval kings of Europe, and the kings were pretty much absolute monarch. So with the advent of Islam, I mean after the Prophet, with the Shura Council, they instituted a a mechanism which to select and elect a popular ruler. By popular, I mean they are known by the people. The people cast their vote for their local leaders, and then the leaders they convene to elect among themselves a ruler or caliph. So that is the system which we, well, after it has evolved, that is what we inherit today. But as a conclusion, Batrisha, I'd like to quote a translator of the English translation of Ahkam al-Sultaniyyah, the Ordinances of Government, which is Professor Wafa al-Wahaba. He said that for Mawardi, the caliphate symbolized the entire political religious system that regulates the lives of men in a Muslim community to the smallest detail. Hence, the emphasis in placed on the qualifications, power, and duties pertinent to a given office of government. Uh, I think this is irrelevant because he talks about political awareness among the people. And in the West, they say that you deserve the government, the people deserve the government that they vote in.
Mhm.
So it is very much, well, in Malay, we can say that pemimpin adalah cerminan rakyat.
Right.
So,
Yes.
yes. So,
Mhm.
if we have a good leader, it only means that he has been selected by representatives who are good, and these representatives, in turn, they were voted in by a good citizens, good people.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yes.
you cannot have uh, if you have a majority of good people, then obviously you cannot vote in somebody who is bad. And conversely, if the leader is bad, then that leader, the ruler, has only been put into office by a group of representatives who are bad, because you cannot have bad representatives vote in a good person. They must vote somebody who is like them, who
Mhm.
will ensure that he's got their back. Uh,
Mhm.
so they cannot be voting for a good person who will keep them in line, or who will control them, who will guard them from doing the bad things that they do.
Mhm.
And consequently, because these bad representatives, they can only be voted in by a large number or a large majority of bad people who fornicate among them, who are drink alcohol among them, who gambles, who commit thefts. Basically,
Mhm.
a company that a group, a population that is not governed by law. They are living in, essentially anarchy. So these are the things, these are the issues that Mawardi discuss in his book. But in his context, his approach talk about explaining the working arrangement reached by the Buwahid and the Abbasid caliphs. Earlier on, we talked about this, how the Buwahids, they cannot rule without legitimation of the Abbasid caliphs. People who are popular, who are known by the population, and then later more by the more efficient Seljuks, and also by the military who held actual power, while in turn recognizing the caliph as the supreme head of the government and receiving from him, as Wahbah said, in turn recognition for their mundane authority. So which explains a lot, because you cannot rule without acceptance, without what we call as acclamation. They are bound to be troubles, and I'm not saying just positive criticism directed upon a government, but we are talking about a government that is not voted in, who got power only as a happenstance. An example would be the current UK government, for example, Rishi Sunak,
Yes.
who didn't have a clear mandate, but he was installed in office because the prime minister before him, Liz Truss, only lasted 50 days, and
Yes.
she also didn't have. She also, she also got into power because Boris Johnson lost the confidence of the UK Parliament.
Mhm.
So we shall see how these are parallels that we can learn. We can even see in today's government. So I think that concludes to for what I want to say today.
And for for this week's topic is very interesting, especially when we talk about the government itself, because usually in this level we usually talk about the stable of a country is based from the leader, but somehow we often neglect of the perspective from a citizen. We also play a role in a stable government, and in this exploration of Imam al-Mawardi's ordinances of the government, we learn about this tapestry of political thought deeply rooted in justice, governance, and the balance of power. And through his principles, we learn about his guidance in responsibilities of rulers, the role of justice, and also the delicate equilibrium needed in leadership. And with that being said, I would like to thank Dr. Mohammad Husni for his
Most welcome.
insight on today's topic, Al-Hakam, al-Sultaniyyah, Imam al-Mawardi's ordinances of the government. And for listeners, if you miss any part of the show or would like to watch it again, you can watch it through our Facebook and also YouTube. And with that being said, Doctor, thank you again for being with us in the studio. Assalamualaikum.